right, guys, welcome to the battle plan. Clay, thank you for answering the call. And here's what we're going to say about Clay today. Clay is a retired Canadian Armed Forces Army officer, and he's serving the intelligence branch, a veteran of Bosnia and Afghanistan. After a colorful career in uniform, he set off into the world of business and financial advising. Today, he manages his own respective portfolios, but has also combined his knowledge and effort to create Battle Rhythm Beard Company. All products with the BRBC logo are handmade in Canada, either vegan or vegetarian friendly, and never tested on animals, which is amazing. BRBC ships directly to your address and will be in various retail stores across North America throughout 2020 and 2021. A project close to his heart, not only does he intend to create a lasting business, but he also donates a proceed of every earning, I think it's $1 of each product sold, to various veterans and first responders charity each year. He loves to serve those who serves. Clay, how are you?
Hey man, thanks for having me. I'm doing great. How about you?
Doing fantastic, fantastic. So thank you for answering the call and coming on the battle plan. Sure. And let's talk about Battle Rhythm Beard Company. Tell me a little bit about your unique story.
Okay, so I mean, this sort of came out of the whole, COVID pandemic. We're locked in our house, staring at walls, that kind of thing, and such. So I sort of, I'd been playing with in the world of e-commerce since probably November. Never got something started that I felt was really mine. It was sort of a variation on a theme from other people's ideas and stuff like this. And then, one day I was just sitting there and I was thinking, well, what kind of products do I personally enjoy? And, I like my beard oils and stuff like that. Like, I mean, I don't have a ZZ Top beard or anything like that, but it's enough that it keeps me busy and whatnot. So, I was kind of going to that product line, but then I'd said, okay, well, everyone does beard oils, right? Everyone, their dog does a beard oil. So what can I do that's slightly different than that? Give me an edge. So yeah, what I did is I sat down with a manufacturer. We hashed out the product line, came up with, I developed all the scent profile names, the descriptions, everything else. So if you go through the product line, you're going to see that every one of the products has some aspect of military nostalgia to it, whether it's the name, whether it's the description, things like this, like, the shock and awe beard oil. It's a throwback to George W. when he was going into Iraq back in '03, talking about the shock and awe campaign, right? So the shock and awe being like, oh my God, look at all this stuff. Look at what's going on. This is insane. Well, then I'm hoping this beard oil is going to do the same thing for your face, which, as far as I'm concerned, it does. Yeah. Like, look at me. I'm a rock star. I'm not a Viking, but I'm a rock star. Mm-hmm. Right? So from there, it just kind of segued into other stuff. So, we have all natural deodorants. We have facial scrubs, coffee scrubs, body scrubs, brushes, combs, hair pomade, like you name it. Anything that has to do with men's grooming is going to be on there. And beyond that, like there's stuff that it's unisex, things that are female friendly as well.
I am the proud owner of your coffee scrub. It's amazing. I love it. You know what? A lot of us guys with big beards, you're right, that did the stuff we did in the military would not think of that. But obviously, our wives said, oh, these coffee scrubs are so great. And I said, now this guy, Clay, made one for men. I'm going to use it. And that's really amazing. It tightened my skins. I look like 10 years younger, for real. And then I did try the beard oil and the beard balm. I think that's what it is. So great products. Doesn't irritate my skin and everything and all that. So that's pretty awesome that you've decided to do this. And then I like the story, which we're going to come back to, of how you differentiate yourself from the other beard products that are out there. Like you said, I'm not a Viking, but I'm a rock star and I'll do these things, which I really like. Tell us a little bit about your career. Let's start about what you did while you were serving and what got you out, if you want to talk about that.
Okay, so I started, I joined as a reservist, private reservist back in August 99, at 3 Intelligence Company in Halifax. Now, I'm from Nova Scotia, so, it wasn't really much of a stretch, and I was sort of in between my university years. I really didn't know, what I wanted to major in. I had no idea. So rather than wasting money, let's go make some money. So, I followed the family tradition, joined the Army, and then from there, I ended up going to Bosnia less than 2 years later. I was in Bosnia.
Oh, wow. That was quick.
Yeah, it
That
was
was
pretty
quick.
quick.
Yeah.
And then I went over as part of Human Intelligence Collection team. I was their collator there. So, and then, just by virtue of the fact that I was one of the best shots on the team and that I could actually drive stick, then I actually got out, well, it's true. I actually got out in the field and started doing operations, which, I wasn't supposed to be there for, but, when somebody's doing 120 in fourth gear and they don't understand why the engine's smoking, well, guess what? Yeah.
You know what? It's a skill that's disappearing. I saw a meme on Facebook the other day. It says, "Share this if you can still drive a stick," and I was like, "What is this? What are we talking about?" But I guess it's true. Awesome.
Yeah, but the worst part was these guys are like, deck officers for frigates and stuff like that. They can drive a ship. They can't drive a four-wheel drive SUV that has a stick shift transmission.
For the people that are that are out there, either from the States or from Australia, people who are listening to us. What is HUMINT? Can you give us a little bit of a
Yeah, so HUMINT is human intelligence. That's it in a nutshell. And what it means is that you go out and you talk to people. You recruit sources that are in positions where they would have access to information that you would be searching for, or it would be beneficial for your commanding officer. And that information will get turned around. It gets vetted through analysis and whatnot. So, if someone, this dude number 3 gives you a story or whatever, well, that's fine. It's a story. It doesn't make it true. It doesn't make it untrue. So, it starts off, we give our sources ratings, and, like an A1 is, that's perfect. Mm-hmm. F6 means we don't know whether it's true or not, and it can't be, accredited to anyone in particular. Now, as time goes by, if the source gives you better information that is typically correct, the rating goes up, but we still have to cross-reference all that information with any sort of statistical analysis that we have access to make sure that the information is actually worth telling to your commanding officer, because he or she is going to make decisions based on that info, right?
Right.
So that's it in a nutshell. That's HUMINT. So yeah, I was involved in that, and then afterwards, after coming back home, I ended up doing, my JLC, this in Gagetown, destroying my knee as per, that's what you do in Gagetown, right?
Yeah.
And and from that point on, into leadership stuff, 6As, and then I went to Afghanistan. And when I was in Afghanistan, or prior to Afghanistan, I did tactical questioning, which is kind of like, it's a very watered down version of interrogation, and it's
the Canadian friendly way of doing it. Is that what you're saying?
It's the, what is it, 2 weeks, 1 week? I don't remember how long it was now, but it's basically taking people who are, a little spun up and from the shock of capture, and you sit down and you question them, like, what's going on? But it's the power of recency, right? So you have to take what they know and apply that information extremely fast in order to make tactical decisions on the battlefield. So that was the whole point of that. But I ended up living in a fob for 5.5 out of the 7 months that I was there, and all I did was collect information from the Afghans the whole time I was there. So yeah.
Okay, so now, sounds to me like a very, very exciting career that you had. Actually, you know what? I had done selection for HUMINT in Kingston, and it was a great experience, to tell you the truth, of seeing what was being done out there. So good job, man. That's pretty amazing. So now that you've went through this, how long did you serve?
16 years in total, because after Afghanistan, I was right into the officer training. That's the last part, because I was already a master corporal. I was given a choice. Do you want to be a sergeant, or do you want to be an officer cadet? So I chose the latter. And
that's not your fault, but I get it.
No, I still have the scars from the lobotomy. That's cool, right? So that's the token joke that everyone expects to hear from that kind of thing. Right. So yeah, and then my first posting as an intelligence officer, after I did some OJT at the counterintelligence unit in Ottawa, I was up in Yellowknife for 3 years.
Yeah, and beautiful place.
I went from a lieutenant Urquhart, doing plans, ops, and then my boss retired. I ended up becoming the J2 for the area for almost a year.
Wow.
And then after that, I was posted to Ottawa, and then I was in J2X and HUMINT and interrogation, and then I went to the counterintelligence unit for a while, and that kind of thing.
So you did some pretty cool stuff, which is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I had the opportunity to go to New Zealand and represent Canada in the Five Eyes community, and little old Captain Urquhart at the time, being able to do that was pretty good stuff. I enjoyed it, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing. You know, a lot of people don't understand this, that the military platform, whether you're in Canada, United States, or Britain or anything, it's a very good platform to find out what you're totally capable of.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
and the one thing that I want to bring back, which is going to segue into where we're going with this, is that we learn so many skills, right?
Hmm.
And then somehow when we release from the military, this transitioning part is a little bit difficult because it's a
Yeah.
different language, it's a different
Hmm.
mentality, the mindset's not the same, things are not done the same way. What skills did you learn while you're in the military that are now serving you at the highest, like it makes you even better than who's out there that might
Right.
not have served?
No, for sure. I mean, and this will go back to anyone who's familiar with, all the however many steps there are today in battle procedure, right?
Mhm.
Because that changes every other year when someone comes up with another great idea. But
A new officer that needs a tick in the box saying he made some changes,
yeah,
right?
exactly that. And we all know how it goes. But let's talk about battle procedure. So battle procedure is, that's in the military. You do your battle procedure, especially when you're on course. Battle procedure is right down to like when you go to the bathroom. You start organizing stuff. So you're basically taking I'm just going to, a bit of an aside here. In the civilian world, when I do contracting, when I do management consulting, piece of this, I have a process, and I call it the inverse planning procedure. So it's basically battle procedure in reverse.
Right.
That's pretty much it. OPP, operational planning procedure in reverse. So you know what your desired end state is going to be. You have that vision, you know where it is. So then you work backwards and you figure out all the things that are going to pop up here and there that are going to throw that off. So you can start mitigating the risk, because that's in the consulting world. I do risk management.
Right.
As an intelligence officer, it kind of seemed like the right thing to do, right? But it's that planning process that we learn in the military, how to come up with detailed plans, how to identify, avoid, mitigate, or accept contingencies, right? Mm-hmm. And how to work around that. Because it's the same as when you're doing section attacks or something like this, and you're practicing that kind of thing. And I mean, we're Army, we're using our Army background to talk about that. But let's say, because Charlie Team always takes the trench. Let's say Charlie Team got blown up, so then you have to adapt and overcome, right? And
yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
because of course your DS is going to come along and say, Charlie Team's gone, man. You got to work around it. So then you have to come up with something on the fly. And it's that ability to be able to do that position, or to be able to position yourself and pivot on the fly, mm-hmm. that I don't think you're going to get from too many other places except through military training. Because the artificial stress they put you under, it takes you to a different level as far as what your threshold is, what you're capable of dealing with at the time. And you don't realize it until you're put into a situation where you have to resort to it. And from my own experience, from what I've seen with friends and family, more friends, I don't have too many family in the military, but friends who've been in the military, when the proverbial shit hits the fan, it clicks and they go into military mode. And these are people who have been out for years, but it just, all of a sudden you do this, and, knife hands coming out, and you're pointing at people, right? You're going to make this happen. You're going to do this. Any questions? No, go. And everything just works.
And that is something to thank you for bringing that up, because when I have my discussion, or I'm doing my talks with veterans and about doing these things, and a lot of them, whether they're being medically released or so, get to that phase after transitioning out where they're angry all the time, things aren't working, and they say, Bruno, it's a dangerous world out there, because we've seen things. We've seen other countries, we see, especially in intelligence, you've seen and heard of things that we don't even get privy to, that you see, the darkness of humanity. Mm-hmm. And basically when we walk down the street and then the guys say, I got to be ready at all times, I'm super hyper vigilant, I'm doing these things. And one of the tips that I bring is that, are you seriously thinking that you can't call up that aggression within seconds of being in danger? It's so ingrained into you. Mm-hmm. Nobody trains you the way the military does. There's no such thing. You got neural pathways that are so alive that even if you don't walk around, you really enjoy your retirement and you're doing these things, that if something needs to happen, you're going to go into battle mode in a split second. That's never going to walk away from you.
Actually, I think it's the opposite. It's being able to turn it off.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know,
right?
that's the hard
How
part.
do we turn it off? And that's the conversation with the battle plan of having, what can we do out there to use the skills that we have, and also to change our mindset, saying like, you know what, not everybody's out there to get us. It's a beautiful world. Let's make it better, because I believe that veterans and military personnel should be leaders in their community because of the things that we've seen and the things we do. We've known places where, oh, it just happens over there. No, it actually can happen anywhere, right? We've seen countries that were on top of the world that are now struggling, and internal fightings. And look at Venezuela, look at all these places, right? So
well, let's take it a little bit closer to home. Like, I'm from Nova Scotia. Look at the events that happened in Nova Scotia in the spring,
right,
where we had that lone gunman, you know, posing in there as an RCMP officer. And, you know, one of the victims was actually a father of people I knew very well, like going to school and stuff like this. So, you know, it's much closer to home in that sense. But, you know, my sister's also a police officer in Nova Scotia. So, you know, there are things that we have to acknowledge that, you know, it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't just happen, you know, in, you know, Charlottesville, Carolina, or Virginia, or, you know, in Kandahar in Afghanistan. No. The potential for things is everywhere. It's just, you know, as veterans, I think one of the things that we need to stress, especially for people who are coming out and, like you said, are angry and twisted and things like that, it's because the military doesn't exactly teach coping skills. Right. You know, they teach you to be, you know, 0 to 60 in 0.5, and to slash, burn, destroy, whatever you get that comes in your way. But it doesn't teach you the after effect and how to not necessarily self-soothe, and definitely not self-medicate, but to be able to be at peace with what's going on in your own head. Right? That's the skill set that needs to be sought after and developed post-military, especially if you're in med release. I mean, I'm rambling here, but a little bit, but, you know, I was in med release, and it took me a few years to come to peace with that, because I didn't want to go.
Yeah,
you know,
well, that's it. Let's get and start talking about that, Clay. Thank you for bringing that in. So my next question was, were you medically released? What was the transition like for you? So bring us in. Absolutely.
Okay, so when I was med released, I mean, I had some lead time knowing it was coming. I was basically in the holding pattern at the IPSC or JPSU or whatever that's called today, for like almost 2 years.
I think it's called the Transitioning Center now here in Canada. Anyway, right?
Yeah. So anyway, we're talking about the same thing, whatever it's called today. And, you know, now that I'm out, I don't really have that fidelity anymore. But no, like, it was really the only thing I can compare it to, not that we all remember what it was like at the time, but being born. You know, you're in your warm, safe little bubble that is the military, or, you know, it's your womb basically. And then all of a sudden you're jettisoned out onto the street. you know, I'm painting an interesting picture here. You know, you're jettisoned out and you're left on your own. Like, you get nothing. Yeah. No umbilicus, there's nothing left. It's not warm, cozy, it's cold, it's foreign. You don't understand it anymore.
Nobody talks the way you talk. Nobody thinks the way you think. Like, one of the things I faced was like, man, am I deranged? Like, is there something wrong with me? Because everybody would do our dark sense of humor, everything that got us to do the job that we did. When we come out, some of the language we use, some of the stuff, people go, man, something's wrong with you guys. Like, this is not even funny. Or, you know, like, even my wife now today, when I show her, like, I'm sitting on the couch in my chair and I have my half hour of social media kind of touching base and everything. And I go on all the vet sites to get that humor, because it helps me throughout the day. And I'm laughing in my chair, and she goes, what? And I show her, this is so funny because it's so true. She doesn't get it. She was like, man, you guys are done.
Yeah. No, and this is exactly the way it is. Yeah. And, you know, when you are out, I find there are certain veterans groups that you can be a part of that some are healthy, some are not healthy. Yeah. Right. Some of them will keep you stuck in the loop of not being able to get out that military out of your head. And I think that's an important step, right? Take the lessons you've learned, digest them, because they're no longer applicable to what you're used to applying them to. Okay, so it's a whole new world out there. So understand that a lot of the stuff that you've learned in the military as far as planning goes and things like this, that's exactly what industry uses to write their own corporate plans.
Right.
And this is one of the things that I've done. Like I did my master's certificate in project management at Sprott, and we go through the whole planning procedure for project management and stuff like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was sitting there, I was just amazed how much of this is exactly the same as the operational planning process. And then you kind of change the terminology, you make it civilian, but the rules are the same. So, coming out of the military like that, it was pretty rough for about 2.5, 3 years until I started taking more courses in the civilian side
Right.
and getting away from the military stuff, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
You hang around with guys who are out and doing well. Don't hang around with the guys that are out not doing well, and don't hang around with the guys that are still in.
Absolutely. It's something that I like to remind the guys. I ask them, right? When they say, Bruno, I'm struggling. What do you think I should do and everything? And I ask them, what are you watching and reading? Garbage in, garbage out. Who are you hanging out with? If you're over at Tim Hortons or at the coffee shop or at the Legion, and you're only hanging out with guys who are complaining about Veterans Affairs and the Department of National Defense and everything, you're going to stay there. It doesn't go anywhere. Right. And then it comes down to the right quote, right? You're the result of the 5 people you hang out with. And that's why I started the battle plan, to show veterans out there and military personnel that there are a lot of us that are out there either running their business, working for corporations, using our military skills to make, a good living and actually get the rewards of serving your country for as long as you have. Yeah. And I think it's just that discussion about having that, you're going to have to learn new skills again. And I love that I started taking courses on civilian world, because that's exactly what I did as well, right? Going back to school, doing these things.
What you have to do. How are you going to learn that stuff if you don't immerse yourself in it, right?
Exactly. Somehow we kind of got stepped back, because I did that. I'll be honest, right? When I was told I was going to be released, I was just like you. I wasn't ready to go. I had 15 years in, and now, Bruno, you're done. So 15 years of creating this identity of who I was, and now being told, you know what, you got to go home. What are you going to do? Right. Yeah. And then that's it. That's just a question, what you can do. But actually, you can do whatever you want. That's the beauty of it. You just need to make a plan about it.
The only thing, like, there's a word of caution too that I would give people, especially if you came from some of the higher ranks. Like if you were a sergeant major, or if you were, a CO or a DCO or something like that, or whatever, a lot of the issues, and I know people who work in Veterans Affairs, and they see this a lot, people who are transitioning. The hardest thing they're going to have to wrap their head around is no one cares who you are.
What rank,
Yeah. No one is going to jump to attention or anything like that when you enter the room. It's never going to happen.
I know. It's actually one of my favorite things to do when I go to an event. Yeah.
Get it out of your head, because guess what? You're every bit as important as private number 2 right over there now. Yeah. Okay. You don't matter like you used to. And that is a big thing for people coming out of the military, especially if those people were, the big talking heads in the room, right?
Right. Totally. Absolutely. And I mention this all the time, and I make sure that everybody knows that once you get out, you get out. And actually, it's a little bit harder for people who did serve 20, 30 years in, because they're actually institutionalized, right? They wore it's like being in prison, but you had day passes, basically. So these guys, thinking that they're going to retire, go golfing all the time. They're doing, rightly so. They should, if that's their retirement plan. But 3 months later, they give me a call. They go, Bruno, like, one, my wife wants to leave me because I'm home all the time now. I didn't plan anything. I had no plans. I thought that playing golf would be great. And now I'm bored, and I don't know what's happening. The income doesn't stretch as far. I'm not making it all. What do you think I should do? And then we work with them, and we design that plan, which brings me, for you, you said those 2 to 3 years it took you, you went into financial advising, if I understood correctly. And then you decided, what was your ha-ha moment saying, like, this is what I'm going to do?
Honestly, I think you're going to come to your aha moments, or, epiphanies, or whatever you want to call it, whatever term you want to throw in there, when you stop overanalyzing. That's when it's going to happen. If you're going to sit there every day, all day long, and then keep yourself up at night saying, what am I going to do? What am I going to become? The fact that you were in the military and you did X, Y, Z, everyone had an expectation that you were always going to be busy doing something. I don't care if you're painting rocks as a private, or if, you're writing plans as a whomever, whatever, I don't care. Or you're counting socks because you're, supply tech, I don't care. When you're out, you have to do things for yourself. But at the same time, if you overanalyze things and you put pressure on yourself, like, well, the fact that I'm not doing anything right now means that I'm worthless.
Right.
The fact that I'm out of the military means I'm worthless. I can't get a job at the gas station because I'm worthless or whatever. No, that's not it. First of all, sit down and come up with a list of things that you're good at. And if you need help from someone because you're too busy trash talking yourself, because, it's basically,
we do that a lot.
well, it's basically a pity party because, and I'm not saying that in a bad way, because everyone is going to go through it to one extent or another, right?
Yeah.
It's where you sit down and you start feeling sorry for yourself and, I'm never going to get anything. I'm never going to be anything. My military life was taken away from me, those bastards, blah, 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 all that type of stuff, right? We all go through it. The fact of the matter is life will go on, and eventually those clouds will part, and you'll have this path in front of you that you can either choose to take or you cannot. Robert Frost, 2 roads diverge in a yellow wood. I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Right. High school quote that I saw, and it'll stick with me forever. Because if you keep, like Einstein, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
Right.
Well, don't do the same shit over and over again. You're not in the military anymore. So if you stop self-sabotaging yourself by thinking you're useless, thinking you're worthless, whatever, get past all that. And like I say, if you need help figuring out what it is you're good at, ask someone who knows you.
Right.
And you're going to see that people actually do think the world of you. People actually think that you have value. You have a lot to offer, even if you don't see it yourself. And at first, that's going to make you feel weird. You're going to squirm in your seat a little bit. You're going to, give a little 9% grin, and you're going to isolate a little bit because you feel embarrassed.
Right.
You feel embarrassed that someone actually thought something of you. Because in the military, you know exactly what people think of you based on your rank and your responsibilities. Mm-hmm. There's absolutely no question about that whatsoever. If you are a master corporal and you are a section commander in RCR, PPCLI, you know exactly what your job is, right? Mm-hmm. Once you're out and you're doing things, especially for yourself, if you are an entrepreneur and you're doing things on your own, guess what? There is no manual. You're writing that shit as you go along.
Yeah, absolutely. You're figuring these things, and you got to ask the right questions and everything. That's what it made me to become an entrepreneur is, when I went to the North Pole and I met these guys that are millionaires and all these things, these industry leaders, and I asked them, what is it to do? He says, you just mitigate the stupid mistakes. You just make it, and asking the right questions. If these guys were willing, and you and I both do this with other veterans, they ask us questions. It made me really reflect on the quality of the questions I was going to ask, because people's time was important. And like you said, I didn't want to feel like I was stupid or anything like that, but your questions are valid. Just, instead of having this overwhelming sense, just take a breather and go, okay, what's the best question I could ask right now pertaining to my situation? Instead of being in a plea of help, or like you said, like a complaint or something like that. It's like, what's the best question I can ask even myself? If I'm struggling, I'm stuck on the couch right now. And I'm listening to Clay right now, and he just started his business and he's running this, and he's really inspiring me. What's the best question I could ask is something, that we could go along.
Well, I'm just going to take a step back here and say, if you don't know what question to ask, if you don't know which direction your compass is pointing in, whatever the case may be, like I said, stop with the pity party stuff, stop with hanging around with people who are going to drag you down, stop hanging around with situations that are going to keep you in that loop, right? If you are the smartest person in the room, you are in the wrong room.
You are in the wrong room. I love that saying.
When you go to another room where you're the dumbest person in the room, don't take it badly, because what it is, you just exposed yourself to a whole host of new things. That in and of itself is going to generate your questions. And I think that's a big first step right there. If you don't know how to ask the questions, if you don't know what questions to ask yourself, get out of your environment, get yourself into a new environment, because that's going to inspire change right there. Yeah. Bang.
A different way of thinking. Clay, you're dropping some knowledge right now. It's amazing. I'm loving it.
It's growth. It's growth.
It's growth. That's what it is. We've both been stuck, and you're going to get stuck. and it's gonna feel like you're behind the 8 ball all the time, hair straight back. What's going on? And some of the best advice Clay, so he's got no more hair. It's so fast.
It's on my face now. That's all.
Right. But I had to ask, and then one of the best advice from a very successful person was, if you feel like you're constantly running, like your hair straight back and things are getting like, keep going, because that's when people quit. And that's one thing, once again, as veterans, as military, we don't quit. We finish always for mission success, but we've all been on missions where everything went wrong and we still accomplished something. So that's, I think, is something to bring it along. And man, you're dropping some really, really good stuff. But I want to talk about your company, because we're here. Now you're doing that. So you started Battle Rhythm Beard Company. Tell us a little bit, like, I know at the beginning you did, but now you're running it. So are you a one-man show? Do you have a team? What are you looking forward to with this company?
So for the first few months, I was a one-man show, and that was all the design of the company itself, with the direction I wanted the company to go in, the archetype I wanted it to embody. Like there are different archetypes in the business world that will sort of give a theme for the company. Like, for example, Nike. Nike is about victory, right? Personally, I went more for the Harley Davidson style model, which is more the rebel, the devil may care kind of thing, because the whole point of my company, and I wanted this to come out in the way the company is presented, the products, the descriptions, etc., is that, okay, yeah, you're military, good for you, super. Now you're not, or maybe you still are, I don't know, whoever is shopping, but the company is geared towards guys who are just guys. They're just dudes. Whatever. Relax. Calm down. Like, I didn't create a company that's going to turn you into a Viking.
No, I didn't. I love it every time you say that. What do you mean? That's why I bought the coffee scrub, bro. This is what's happening. Where's the axe?
Vikings didn't have coffee, but or like a soft operator, because that's the other archetype we see all the time. Like, guys who are ex-soft guys or whatever. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that. Not at all. It's just not the direction I wanted my company to go in.
Right.
For me, I took something that says, okay, the battle rhythm, anyone who knows anything about the military, battle rhythm is basically just, it's the idling of your car engine, right? So you're constantly in ready mode. You're putting along, you're doing your thing, and you're ready to go at any given moment, right? So the battle rhythm is just establishing your rhythm, and like I said on the website, establish your rhythm, establish your style. The rest is easy, because once you're comfortable with yourself, things move along smoothly. That's the whole point of the battle rhythm, right?
Love it.
Get comfortable with yourself. Put the shit away. No more pity parties. No more none of that stuff. I mean, yeah, we're going to have days where we're going to be hard on ourselves. We're going to have days that things didn't go right. And if I lose the fucking Lotto Max again, I'm going to be upset. But guess what? It's going to happen. Right?
It will.
So adapt and overcome, right?
Yeah.
And that was the whole point of my company. So it took me a few months to hash that out. Things sort of fell into place organically. And like I said, I wanted to give a nod to my past military career, but not in the way that kept me stuck in that loop. So like, talk about the names of the products and stuff like this, like the FIBA mustache and beard soap and stuff. Like, FIBA stands for Forward Edge of the Battle Area. And you talk about that, like, your face is on the edge of what you do every day. Make that thing look good. Do something about it. Don't just sit there and look like Grizzly Adams or whatever, right? Just a throwback to my age.
That was a good show. That was a very good show. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean, right? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
So the whole point of the company was not to turn you into something you're not. It's to help you embrace who and what you are and be totally cool with that, because what you are is enough, and that's fine.
I love it. I love it. That's exactly what I was. So now that the company's going, you guys are growing. We were talking a little bit before starting, to record this podcast.
Yeah.
So what are some of the kind of like the challenges that you faced and how you're dealing? Like right now, we were talking specifically about, online marketing and getting your product out there and all these things, which are things that we did not know anything about while we were serving.
Right.
But now we're learning. So about learning and all these things, if we can just jump back into that conversation we were having.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, I started doing e-commerce stuff back in November, and I think a good solid 4, maybe 5 failures before I did BRBC, right?
Mhm.
And you know, I'm at the point now in my life where I don't care about the failures as much because it's a learning procedure, right? And as long as there's no, you know, big financial implications of that failure, then whatever, right?
Right.
You learn, you move on. And that's what BRBC was for me. So it was an evolutionary process to get me to that point. And like you said about the things that we didn't know. So, you know, one of my last things that, last websites that I had, I was working with eBay and stuff like this. But then when COVID hit so hard, shipping came to almost a halt.
Right.
So then all kinds of negative reviews and stuff like this. Well, guess what? I can't do anything about that.
Right.
But then there was an argument with eBay and stuff. And, you know, these are all things you learn because, you know, we didn't expect that to happen, but it did. That particular business line that I had folded as a result. But guess what? That is why right now I have Canadian shippers, Canadian manufacturers doing this with me, because I will never outsource that crap again outside of the country. Now, with the company that I have now with BRBC, yes, things are handmade in Canada, but the shipping is a little bit different. And it's something I learned from another website as well. When we're talking about getting things across the border, the customs, the duties, things like this, right? Because that's something that a lot of people don't understand either. And I didn't understand it at all. Like the harmonized systems for entering your stuff into the trade stuff. So the customs and border agents know exactly what you're talking about. I didn't even know what that was,
right.
Let alone, you know, it's a 5-digit number. So think about the combinations that could be.
Which one is it?
So I'm thinking about coffee. For all I know, it could be blow-up dolls. I don't know what's going on here.
Right.
One number off, it could be completely different, right? So, yeah. I mean, I'm joking, but you know, it's really that simple. So those are the lessons I learned. And when I came down to BRBC, what I said is, okay, I'm not going outside of the country. With my shipping, it either ships from within Canada. So if you order in Canada, it ships from within Canada. If you order from within the United States, it ships from a U.S. warehouse. Same as international stuff comes from the international or from the U.S. warehouse. So we get past all the customs and stuff like that easily enough. We don't have to worry about that, right?
Yeah.
And then, you know, I came up with a flat rate of shipping that was beneficial to all parties involved and stuff like this. So these are the things that I had to learn the hard way. And, you know, this is why veterans starting off in business are going to be overwhelmed. Because, you know, like one of the greatest.
But it's not impossible.
Right? No, one of the greatest things that Rumsfeld ever said was, "We don't know, we don't know," and it's so true.
Yeah.
You know, and you can't be hard on yourself for not knowing this stuff because you've never done it before. And especially if you're doing it by yourself, you don't have any mentors, you don't know who to talk to, things like this. Yeah, of course you're going to make mistakes.
Absolutely. And you know what? I always say to people, it's not something that I'm really proud about, but it's not knowing what not knowing. I ran my gym for the first 6 months when I first had started my gym in 2013 with no business license because I didn't know. Right. Yeah. I opened a gym. I had rented the place. I had done these things. And then after that, it was the same thing, you know, reporting for your taxes, doing all this stuff, getting an accountant, getting a corporation, getting all these things, which will come. Guys, it's totally doable. Just like when you went to basic training, just when you went through trades training, everything you learn by bit. And unfortunately, the difference is that the system is designed within the military. They know exactly how many steps you're going to take today, how many push-ups you're going to make, all of these things, and what they need to teach you. The difference is when you're running your business is that you learn these things as they show up, right? And something's going to show up one day. Like I said, for me, it was just that. Somebody asked me, says, "Oh, where's your business license? Because you need to put that number." And I went, "What business license?" And everybody looked at me going like, "What?"
Yeah.
Right?
No,
right?
Exactly right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, taxation, another big one. And if you don't know taxation, that will come back and bite you in the ass.
Oh, you can't run away from that one. They're really, really well set up.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So, Clay, for us, I really love the wisdom that you dropped today. I really enjoyed it. I think that you brought them some really real concrete things that we will face as veterans to come out. And basically, I think the points that we come out is, you know, be careful of who you hang out with to make sure that, you know, I use that one all the time. You know, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room, and it's going to be uncomfortable. because at the beginning, you're not speaking their language. You're totally not understanding what they're talking about and everything. I used to go to commerce meetings and, you know, and we have a tech kind of like industry here in Victoria and all these things. I used to go there and I didn't speak tech at the time, but I had to learn. And that's the thing. And just so you know that your brain's already formatted to learn on the go. Just give yourself a chance, I think, is one of the things we got to remind people.
Yeah, and the other thing too is, like, in the military, you're expected to have the answers all the time. Yeah. Like when somebody comes along and says, you know, Corporal Bloggins, what is this? What's it doing here? You're supposed to have that answer. Yeah. Now you're going into the business world, you don't have answers. And like we talk about, like, being in a room with people smarter than you are. Yeah, people are going to be smarter than you are in that room about certain things. And that's where the caveat has to be put in there. Like, yeah, okay, they're smarter than you about business. That's why you're in the room to begin with. Don't be hard on yourself because you don't understand. And the only stupid question that gets asked is the one that doesn't get asked, right? Like, we know that from the military. So, you know, if it makes you feel better, you can always say, like, I don't know what I'm talking about here, but I'd like to know more about this. And chances are, in that group, this new room that you're in, you're going to find somebody you're going to gravitate towards and will become a mentor. Yeah. Absolutely. Allow that process to happen.
Yeah, and be there and be ready for it, because a mentor of mine, that was one of the questions. I actually had a feeling that I was like, hey man, I don't know what I'm doing here. Yeah. His name was Jim. And I said, I don't know what I'm in the tech area and all these things. And he actually stopped. We were walking down the street in Victoria and he actually stopped. He says, do you know how much value do you bring to the table? Yeah. And that was see the quality of the question. I was like, what are you talking about? Because I wasn't focused on that. I was focused on all the things I didn't know. Or the language I wasn't. He says, you know how much you bring to the table, your way of approaching things, the way that you do things, the way that you speak, the way that you are interested in learning and all these things is something we're constantly looking for. You can, you know, even though these guys are CEOs and yes, they are sitting at that table and everything, you're at the same level. It's just a different type. It's the different qualities and different skills that you have that you need to bring. And at that moment, because of a mentor, it switched. And I was like, okay, I'm part of this room. Let's stay in there and let's keep pushing.
Yeah, and exactly. And I mean, just about the questions and stuff that you asked, one of the things you mentioned about what questions did I ask myself to get to my aha moment or whatever the case may be. And the same as when you're asking questions to people who you're trying to learn from. Don't ever ask closed questions, ask open questions. And if people don't know what the difference of those two things mean. So this goes back to source handling and stuff like this. A closed question gets a yes or no answer. Yeah. That's it. An open question requires an explanation to answer the question. And that is something you should start doing with yourself right off the bat. Are things going to get better? Yes or no? No. Well, then you've already condemned yourself to that, right? The question you should be asking is, how can I make things better? And then come up with a list and start small. You know, the only way to eat an elephant, one bite at a time. So don't put that pressure on yourself. Do it methodically. Do it the way you've been trained to do, because you have been trained to follow a process. So you can apply the same process or you can develop your own process. And then once you start doing that, you will get to the point where you're asking yourself legit questions. You're in a healthier place and you're growing and you will feel it. And the sense of pride that you're going to get from that is going to be more than you've ever got from getting your next rank in the military. I can promise you that. That's
awesome. Once again, dropping some wisdom. I think we're going to have a few more podcasts, I think so there, Clay, because
absolutely.
You're right. And the thing is that we keep that conversation going for these guys. So if you're out there and you're struggling, reach out to us. We'll give you all the information about Clay. You know, that's the whole thing. That never ends. We both help veterans, you know, get back on their feet and doing these things. So Clay, we're going to close this up. We're going to do some quick fire questions here to show everybody that you are human and that you're not this super awesome guy, but you are, that, you know, just like a robot. And then at the end, I'll give you a little piece, a little time for you to give a piece of guidance. You've been dropping them all show, so it's pretty awesome. And then we'll tell people how to reach you and how to get your products and all these things. Okay, so here we go. You ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, what's the best advice you've ever received?
Don't stop. Don't ever stop. You can take a break. That's fine. Take a knee. You know, it's no different than when you're doing anything military. If you need to take a knee and figure out, you know, did I pass this tree twice already, or whatever the case may be, you know, take the time you need to do that and move on. Don't stop.
Love it. Share one of your personal habits that contribute to your success.
Going to bed at a reasonable hour, getting up at a reasonable hour. Because if you stay up all night thinking about stuff, you won't sleep, and then it's going to screw up your whole day the next day. So if you can get to bed, and like for me, my healthy range is between 10, 11 at night, and I'm up between 6:30 and 7:30 in the morning.
Awesome. That works for you. Yeah, I think that's the same thing for me, 10, 11 at night. And then I get up at 5:30 and I go for my walk and all these things.
You're a machine. I don't do that.
You know what? It always gets harder in the winter though. When it gets dark in the mornings, like when it's later dark, that's hard on me. Yeah. Sometimes I adjust a little bit longer.
Oh, I know. I did 3 years in Yellowknife, man. I know.
Dude, it's a beautiful place, but yeah, you're right. Yeah. What's one growth resource that you've used? Like you talk about taking courses, you talk about, now there's online courses and all these things. What's the one that for you made a difference that you might want to share with the audience?
Stay curious, really stay curious. That's not something that you can buy in a store. It's not a book you can borrow from a library or anything like that, but it's something you can foster within your own brain. Keep that curiosity going, because that is what's going to keep you going in different directions. And, like I said before, I've done a few things where I failed miserably. Learning procedures, right? That's all they are. So if you're curious, okay, so you fall, you're going to get yourself up, you're going to dust yourself off, you're going to go again, right? Think about when you're a kid, you're learning how to drive a bike. Well, the training wheels come off, so you got some skinned elbows, some skinned knees, but guess what? A few years later, that's a distant memory. You don't even think about that because you're cruising down the hill, hair flying in the back of your, because you're so good at your bike now, it doesn't matter. So guess what? Keep curious, keep building, and keep going.
Awesome. I love it. Love it. Favorite book?
That's a really tough one because, so many of my books have turned into movies. But I got to tell you, when I was doing the university, I was taking a medieval literature course, and the book that most, I know.
Medieval literature course?
Yeah. And it was
I love it.
The same year that I was doing varsity rugby and stuff like this. And we did the book called Beowulf. Beowulf was the first book ever to have been written in what we consider English. So obviously Middle English, because it was discovered back in like 950 AD or something like this, right? But everyone has their own take on Beowulf. So there's the 13th Warrior with Antonio Banderas. Love that movie, things like this. It's all takes on that, right? But what it is it's like this warrior guy, Beowulf, who is no one special, really, but he has to slay this crazy demon and his mother and stuff like this. But then, it's a saga. It's a legend. It's meant to be blown up. It's meant to be exaggerated. Yes. At the end of the day, it's one dude facing a problem that is supposed to be insurmountable, and he cuts that shit in half, and carries on. He's just another dude that slayed a demon. You can do it as well as any other buddy in a book. So that book really stuck with me throughout the years. That's where the warrior ethos and stuff like that that's really where it came from. So, from Beowulf to varsity rugby to being a bouncer to being in the military, those were my steps, right? And, from that point on, so I've been beaten down and things like this through different things, but I've never given up. And it all came from there.
Yeah, you know what? The thing is that we failed. Now I actually look forward, and then there's a thing too. I do NLP, and there's no failing. It's only feedback, right? When you think about it, we're going to eat some dirt. We're going to keep on going. So when you adopt that mentality, which I know we have in the military, it's just that, like you said, just keep going. If you need to take a knee, eat some dirt, do what you got to do, what you got to keep on going. And Beowulf, it's so funny that you said that because I just listened to exactly the history of that. It was mind-blowing about how it came and how it was written and everything. And I really enjoyed it. So thank you for bringing that up. And the last one, favorite movie and why?
Where Eagles Dare. I don't know if you're familiar with that one. Where Eagles Dare.
Oh, wow. No.
Okay. So this is some classic acting, right? This is a World War II era movie. It's a spy movie. Sir Richard Burton is in it. Clint Eastwood is in it, one of his first non-Western roles back in the day. And he plays an assassin for the OSS. The OSS is the precursor to the CIA, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So these are two guys that are going behind enemy lines in Nazi Germany. And it's a whole plot to discover a double agent working for the Brits at the time. It's very complicated. You know, some parts are a little hokey because, you know, it's still the 60s, 70s time movie making and stuff like this. But the story is phenomenal. It's really one of the best spy stories that I think I've ever seen or heard. And, you know, I've read Le Carré and all those books and things like this. But, you know, the way they present it and stuff like this, like these guys are really flying by the seat of their pants to get in and out and stuff like this. And, you know, there's sabotage, there's double agents, there's, you know, all that type of stuff. And it's crazy. It's the world of international espionage, and I loved it.
I love it. I'm happy that you're on our side, actually, to tell you that. Clay, that's awesome, man. Like, thank you very much for answering those. And now, you know, if you had one piece of guidance, if you can tie a nice little bow on this conversation, the first of many, I believe, what would it be? What would you tell the audience today? Anybody that's, you know, stuck on their couch or that's struggling right now, transitioning, or they're still serving and they're, you know, they're coming up to their medical release or their pension or whatever that is. What would you tell them?
Yeah, I think it's important for people to realize that just because the military is over doesn't mean you are. Okay, the military has stopped. You did not. You are going in a different direction. Accept that and carry on in that direction, because the military is not going to miss you when you're gone, right? They're just going to keep on rolling. That's what it is. That's recruiting, just fills those voids, right? So understand that your story is not over. Your story is beginning again, right from the beginning. It's a whole new beginning. So just start from the beginning and carry on.
I love it. I love it. Now, you know what? One of the things I like to tell people is that, you know, the military told you that you can no longer serve within in uniform, but nobody told you to not serve. You can no longer serve your country, right?
Well, exactly that, or each other.
Yeah, or each other, and that's the thing. And what I'm finding is a lot of veterans like yourself that are, you know, trying to make this world a better place, continuing to serve others, to continuing to push forward, because that's just it. It's who we are. That's awesome.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And that's why I said, like, I serve those who serve, because, you know, there are times when it's going to be rough. And, you know, I went through some very dark periods and stuff like that over the last X amount of years and whatnot. I was extremely upset when I found out that I was being med released. But you know what? Life goes on, and, you know, you're going to take some bumps and bruises and stuff like that. But, you know, what is it that Conan used to say? You know, bones heal, chicks dig scars, pain is temporary and glory is forever, right? So carry on, you know. And
use Battle Rhythm Beard Company products that will help you. You're going to be right ahead of everybody.
You're going to smell good. You're going to look good. You're going to be absolutely fantastic, just not a Viking. Yeah.
Just not a Viking. That's really important. Just not a Viking. Clay, man, thank you so much for answering the call. This has been an amazing conversation. I could go on for hours of this, and I think that what we'll do some more of these as everything goes on. But where can people reach out to you?
So yeah, my phone number is 613-795-8813. That's my cell number there. You can even text me if you want. And then for the email address for the company, it's battlerhythmbeardco, all one word, @gmail.com. And you can flip an email there anytime. I'll get it anytime through the day. And I usually answer within an hour or so. So pretty good that way. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Clay. If there's anything we can do here for you at the Battle Plan, let us know.
Right on. Thanks a lot, brother.